The Seattle skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse as I turned my key in the lock, a satisfied smile playing on my lips. I'd cut my business trip to San Francisco short by 2 days, eager to surprise Elena. 3 years of marriage, and I still got that flutter of excitement thinking about coming home to her. The door swung open, and I stepped into our marble foyer, already imagining her face when she saw me. "Elena? Honey, I'm home early." The click of heels on hardwood made me look up. Elena emerged from our bedroom, and my smile froze. She was stunning, wearing the black cocktail dress I'd bought her in Paris, her dark hair swept up in an elegant twist, and most notably, the diamond necklace I'd given her for our 3rd anniversary last month. But something was wrong. Her eyes widened when she saw me, not with joy, but with something that looked disturbingly like panic. "Marcus, what are you doing here?" Her voice had an edge I'd never heard before. I finished early. Wanted to surprise you." I set down my briefcase, confusion clouding my thoughts. "You look beautiful. Where are you going?" "Out." The word came out sharp, defensive. "Out where? I thought we could—" "Marcus, stop!" She held up one perfectly manicured hand, and that's when I noticed it. Her left hand, specifically. The wedding ring I'd placed on her finger 3 years ago at St. James Cathedral was gone, just the faint tan line where it had been. "I don't need to explain my every move to you. You need to trust me." "Trust you?" "Elena, I do trust you. I'm just asking where you're going. We haven't seen each other in 5 days, and that's exactly the problem." Her voice rose, surprising us both. "You're always gone, Marcus. Always working, building your precious company. And when you are here, you hover. You question. You suffocate me." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Suffocate you? I've never— I need space. I need you to stop being so controlling." She grabbed her clutch from the entry table, a designer piece I'd never seen before. "I'm going out, and I don't owe you an explanation. That's what trust means, Marcus. Or don't you understand that?" She swept past me, and I caught a whiff of her perfume, not the Chanel I'd given her, but something else. Something new and expensive that I didn't recognize. "Elena, wait. Please. Can we just talk about this?" She paused at the door, her hand on the knob. For a moment, I thought she might turn around, might soften. But when she looked back at me, her eyes were cold, distant, like I was looking at a stranger wearing my wife's face. "Trust me, Marcus. That's all you need to do. Just trust me." And then she was gone, the door closing with a decisive click that echoed through our suddenly too large apartment. I stood there in the foyer for what felt like an eternity, my suitcase still in my hand, trying to process what had just happened. My wife, the woman who used to text me throughout the day with silly memes and I love yous, who used to greet me at the door with kisses and excitement about our future, had just looked at me like I was her enemy. I walked slowly to our bedroom, setting my suitcase down mechanically. Everything looked normal. Our bed was made, her side table held the book she'd been reading, her laptop sat closed on her desk. But something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it. Then I saw it. On her dresser, next to her jewelry box, was her wedding ring. Not forgotten, not misplaced, deliberately removed and left behind. Next to it was a receipt from a restaurant I'd never heard of, dated 3 days ago. Dinner for 2. $347. My hands started shaking. I pulled out my phone, my mind racing through possibilities. There had to be an explanation. Maybe a girl's night out. But why wouldn't she just say that? Why the hostility? Why remove her ring? I scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Diana Chen. My business partner Tom had used her services last year during his messy divorce. "Best PI in Seattle," he'd said. "Save my ass and half my assets." I'd never imagined I'd need to call her. My finger hovered over her name for a long moment. Making this call meant admitting something was wrong. It meant I didn't trust my wife. It meant crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. But Elena's words echoed in my mind. Trust me. The way she'd said it, though, it wasn't a plea from a loving wife. It was a command, a demand, almost a threat. I thought about the past 3 months, the little things I'd dismissed. Elena taking calls in the other room, her sudden interest in working out, in updating her wardrobe, coming home late from work events I'd never heard about, changing her phone password, something we'd never had in our relationship. We'd always been open with each other, or so I'd thought. Last week, I'd reached for her phone to check the weather app while we were getting ready for bed, and she'd practically lunged across the bed to snatch it away. "That's private," she'd said, laughing it off. "A girl needs her secrets." At the time, I'd kissed her forehead and let it go. Now, standing in our bedroom, staring at her abandoned wedding ring, those words took on a sinister meaning. My thumb pressed down on Diana Chen's name before I could second-guess myself. It rang twice before a crisp, professional voice answered. "Chen Investigations." Diana speaking. "Ms. Chen, my name is Marcus Hart. Tom Rodriguez referred me. I paused, the words sticking in my throat. Saying them out loud made it real. "I think I need your help. It's about my wife." There was a brief pause then. "Can you meet me tomorrow morning? I have an opening at 9. Could we make it tonight? I know it's late, but the Victrola coffee on 15th. I can be there in 40 minutes. Thank you. I'll be there." I ended the call and sat down heavily on our bed, the one Elena and I had picked out together when we moved into this place 2 years ago. We'd laughed that day, talking about our future, about the kids we'd have someday, about growing old together. How had we gone from that to this? To me sitting alone in our bedroom, about to hire a private investigator to follow my own wife. I looked around the room with new eyes, suddenly seeing all the small changes I'd been too busy or too trusting to notice. The new silk robe hanging in her closet that still had tags on it, $600 at Nordstrom. The expensive skincare products in the bathroom I'd never seen before. The fact that her side of the closet had expanded significantly, filled with designer clothes and shoes that must have cost thousands. We had money, my tech company was doing well, but Elena had always been practical about spending. She'd grown up without much and prided herself on being smart with finances. These purchases didn't fit her personality, unless that personality had been changing, and I'd been too blind to see it. I stood up, my decision made. If Elena wanted me to trust her, she needed to give me a reason to. And if she couldn't, or wouldn't, then I'd find out the truth myself. I changed out of my business clothes into jeans and a sweater, grabbed my wallet and keys, and headed out. As I rode the elevator down to the parking garage, I caught my reflection in the polished steel doors. I looked tired, older than my 36 years. The stress of running a growing tech startup showed in the lines around my eyes, the gray threading through my dark hair. Maybe Elena was right. Maybe I had been working too much, neglecting her. Maybe this was my fault. But even as I thought it, another voice in my head, the instinct that had helped me build a successful company from nothing, whispered that something else was going on. Something darker. The night air was crisp as I drove through downtown Seattle toward Capitol Hill. The city I loved suddenly felt unfamiliar, threatening. Every couple I passed on the street made me wonder, were they happy? Were they lying to each other? How many of them were living the same nightmare I was just beginning to discover? I found parking near Victrola and sat in my car for a moment, gathering my thoughts. What was I going to tell this private investigator? That my wife dressed up and went out without telling me where? That she took off her wedding ring? That she told me to trust her in a tone that made me feel anything but trusted? It sounded paranoid. It sounded like I was a jealous, controlling husband. Exactly what Elena had accused me of being. But I knew something was wrong. I walked into the coffee shop, the warm smell of espresso and pastries a stark contrast to the cold knot of anxiety in my stomach. Diana Chen was easy to spot. She sat in the back corner, laptop open, a sharp-eyed woman in her mid-40s with short black hair and an air of quiet competence. She looked up as I approached, her gaze assessing me in seconds. "Marcus Hart?" She stood and offered her hand. Her grip was firm, professional. "Ms. Chen, thank you for meeting me on such short notice. Diana, please. And I understand urgency. Sit down. Tell me what's going on." I sat across from her and for a moment couldn't find the words. Where did I even start? "Take your time," she said, her voice gentler now. "I know this isn't easy. Tom told me about your company. You're about to go public, right?" I nodded, surprised. "In about 6 weeks. How did you—" "I make it my business to know things. It's relevant. Tell me about your wife." So I did. I told her about coming home early, about Elena's reaction, about the missing wedding ring and the hostility that came out of nowhere. I told her about the small changes over the past few months, the late nights, the secretiveness, the new password on her phone. Diana listened without interrupting, occasionally typing notes on her laptop. When I finished, she sat back and studied me. "Do you think she's having an affair?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Hearing it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. I don't know. Maybe? But it feels like more than that. The way she spoke to me tonight, it was like she wanted me to know something was wrong, but she wanted me to be the one to look crazy for questioning it. Diana nodded slowly. "Gaslighting. Classic manipulation technique? What about your finances? Joint accounts?" "Everything's joint. We've always been open about money." "Well, we were. I haven't checked in detail lately. I've been busy with the IPO prep. I'll need access to those accounts, and I'll need you to sign some paperwork. But Marcus, before we go any further, I need you to understand something." She leaned forward, her expression serious. "Once you start down this path, you can't unknow what you find. If your wife is just going through something, a midlife crisis, stress, whatever, hiring a PI could destroy your marriage if she finds out. And if she's doing something worse, then you need to know. But you need to be prepared for any answer." She paused, then added, "In my experience, when someone's gut tells them something is wrong, they're usually right. The question is how wrong and what you're going to do about it." I thought about Elena's face tonight. The coldness, the dismissiveness, the almost rehearsed quality to her anger. I need to know the truth. Whatever it is. Diana pulled out a contract from her bag. "Then let's find it." As I signed the paperwork that would set everything in motion, I felt a strange mixture of dread and relief. I was doing something. I was trusting my instincts instead of letting myself be manipulated into silence. But I also felt the foundation of my life beginning to crack. The marriage I thought I had, the future I'd imagined, it was all based on trust. And that trust was about to be tested in ways I couldn't yet imagine. Diana packed up her laptop and stood. "I'll start tomorrow. In the meantime, act normal. Don't let her know you suspect anything. Can you do that? Could I? Could I go home? Sleep next to my wife? And pretend everything was fine while knowing I'd just hired someone to follow her?" "I'll do what I need to do," I said. Diana's expression softened slightly. "I hope I'm wrong, Marcus. I hope I find out she's planning a surprise party or taking dance lessons or something innocent. But if I'm not wrong, you're going to need to be strong. Whatever's coming, you're going to need to be ready." I nodded, not trusting my voice. We parted ways outside the coffee shop. I drove home slowly, dreading what I'd find, or wouldn't find. Elena's car was in its spot when I pulled into the garage. She was home. I took the elevator up, my heart pounding. When I opened the door to our apartment, I found Elena in the living room, curled up on the couch in her robe, makeup removed, looking like the woman I'd married. Soft, vulnerable. "Marcus," she said, and her voice broke. "I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. The stress of work, and you being gone, and I took it out on you, and that wasn't fair." She stood and walked to me, wrapping her arms around my waist, burying her face in my chest. I could feel her trembling. Every instinct screamed at me to hold her, to forgive her, to believe this was real. But I'd just spent an hour with a private investigator, signing papers to have my own wife followed. I'd crossed a line and there was no going back. So I held her, stroking her hair, murmuring that it was okay. But inside, I was already distant, already protecting myself. Because Diana's words echoed in my mind. In my experience, when someone's gut tells them something is wrong, they're usually right. And my gut was screaming that the woman in my arms was lying. I didn't sleep that night. Elena drifted off around midnight, her breathing deep and even beside me, while I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing through possibilities I didn't want to consider. Every time I started to doze off, I'd jolt awake, hyper-aware of her presence next to me, this person I thought I knew better than anyone, who suddenly felt like a stranger. Around 3 a.m, her phone buzzed on her nightstand. Once, twice, 3 times. Text messages. She didn't stir, but I found myself frozen, barely breathing, wondering who was texting my wife in the middle of the night. When morning finally came, Elena was already up, cheerful and affectionate, bringing me coffee in bed like she used to when we first got married. "I have an early meeting," she said, kissing my forehead. "Love you." And then she was gone, leaving behind the scent of her perfume and a lingering sense of unreality. I waited until I heard the elevator doors close before I got up. Diana had asked me to send her Elena's information: full name, date of birth, social security number, phone number, car details, typical schedule. As I compiled the data, my hands shook slightly. This was it, the point of no return. I sent the email to Diana and forced myself to go through the motions of a normal day. Shower, dress, head to the office. My company, Heart Tech Solutions, occupied the 15th floor of a building in South Lake Union, with views of the Space Needle and the water beyond. Normally, walking into our modern, open-concept office filled me with pride. Today, it felt like I was playing a role in someone else's life. "Marcus, welcome back." My business partner, Tom Rodriguez, bounded over as soon as I walked in. Tom was everything I wasn't: extroverted, charismatic, the face of our company, while I was the brains behind the technology. "How was San Francisco? Did you close the deal?" "Deal's closed. We'll have the contracts by end of week." Tom studied my face. "You look like hell, man. Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Just tired. You know how those trips are." But Tom had known me for 8 years, since we'd started this company in his garage with nothing but an idea and determination. He wasn't fooled. "Marcus, come on. What's going on?" I glanced around at our bustling office. 30 employees now, all working hard to prepare for our IPO. I couldn't do this here. "Later," I said quietly. "Let's grab lunch." The morning dragged by. I tried to focus on code reviews and prep meetings with our legal team about the IPO, but my mind kept drifting. Where was Elena right now? What was she doing? Who was she with? At noon, my phone buzzed. "Diana. Need to meet. Noon today work? Same place." My heart rate spiked. She'd found something already? I texted back, "I'll be there." I told Tom I needed to reschedule lunch and drove to Capitol Hill, my stomach churning. Diana was waiting in the same corner booth, and her expression told me everything before she even opened her mouth. "That was fast," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. "Sometimes it is." She turned her laptop toward me. "I started with basic surveillance this morning. Followed your wife from your building." "And?" "She didn't go to work, Marcus." Diana clicked a key, and a photo filled the screen. Elena, in her business suit, entering a residential building. The timestamp read 9:47 a.m. This is the Belfield Towers in Bellevue. Luxury condos. Units start at $2 million. I stared at the photo, my mind struggling to process. Maybe she was meeting a client at 9:47 a.m.? I checked the building directory. There are no businesses registered there. It's purely residential. Diana clicked to the next photo. Elena, carrying an overnight bag I'd never seen before. This was taken at 9:43, 4 minutes before she entered. That bag wasn't in her car when she left your building. Where did she get it? She stopped at a storage unit facility in Redmond. Unit 247. Rented 3 months ago under her name. She was inside for 6 minutes, came out with the bag. A storage unit. 3 months, right around the time things started feeling off. What's in the unit? I don't know yet. It would be illegal for me to access it without a warrant or her permission. But Marcus, people don't rent storage units for no reason, especially not when they live in a penthouse with plenty of space. I sat back feeling dizzy. What else? Diana pulled up another set of photos. Elena exiting the Belfield Towers at 2:15 p.m. No overnight bag. Different clothes than she'd entered in. More casual, almost intimate. A soft cashmere sweater I'd never seen. Jeans that looked designer. She was inside for 4.5 hours. I have a colleague positioned there now, trying to identify which unit she entered. The building has security, so it's not easy. But we'll figure it out. Was there anyone with her? Not that I saw. She was alone going in and coming out. Diana closed her laptop. But Marcus, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. What? This kind of behavior, secret storage units, luxury apartment visits, changing clothes, it's usually one of 3 things. An affair is the obvious one, but there are others. Sometimes people are planning to leave and setting up a separate life. Sometimes they're hiding assets in preparation for divorce. And sometimes, she paused. Sometimes what? Sometimes they're planning something worse. The words hung in the air between us. Something worse. What could be worse than an affair? I need you to do something for me, Diana continued. I need you to check your financial accounts. All of them. Look for anything unusual. Charges you don't recognize, transfers you didn't authorize, accounts you didn't open. Can you do that? I nodded, pulling out my phone. We had a joint checking account, joint savings, and several investment accounts. I logged into our bank's app, something I probably should have been doing more regularly, instead of assuming Elena was handling our personal finances while I focused on the company. The checking account looked normal at first glance. Typical expenses, groceries, utilities, gas. But then I saw it. A charge from 3 days ago. Cartier, $2,400. Diana, look at this. I showed her the screen. She photographed it with her phone. Do you remember Elena buying something from Cartier? No. I gave her that diamond necklace for our anniversary last month, but I bought it directly from Tiffany's. She hasn't mentioned anything from Cartier. Keep looking. I scrolled further back. 2 weeks ago, Michael Kors, $3,200. 3 weeks ago, Nordstrom, $5,800. A month ago, Saks Fifth Avenue, $7,100. The charges went on, dating back 3 months. Tens of thousands of dollars in purchases I'd never seen, for clothes and jewelry Elena had apparently never worn at home. Jesus Christ, I whispered. I never checked the accounts. She always handled the bills, and I just made sure money was going in from my salary. I trusted her. How much total would you estimate? I scrolled through, adding roughly in my head, at least 40,000. Probably more. In 3 months. Okay. What about savings? I switched to our joint savings account, the one we'd been building toward a down payment on a house in the suburbs we'd been talking about buying. The balance should have been around $180,000. It was $97,000. Marcus, what is it? The savings account. We're missing over $80,000. Diana leaned forward. Do you see where it went? I clicked through the transaction history, my heart sinking with each line item. Monthly transfers of $5,000 to an account I didn't recognize. The account number meant nothing to me. There are transfers, $5,000 a month for the past 3 months, and then a larger one 2 months ago for $65,000, all to the same external account. I looked up at Diana. I don't know whose account this is. Forward me those screenshots. I'll trace it. She made a note on her laptop. What else? Credit cards? I checked our joint credit card. Normal usage until I got to the itemized statement. There, buried among legitimate charges, were dozens of purchases I didn't recognize. Restaurants I'd never been to. Hotels in Vancouver, British Columbia. When had Elena gone to Vancouver? More clothing stores? More jewelry? There's more, I said, my voice hollow. So much more. Hotel stays. Expensive dinners. She's been living a completely separate life. Diana was quiet for a moment, letting me process. Then she said gently, Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Is there any chance your marriage was in trouble before this? Any arguments, any reason she might want to leave? No. I mean, we've been busy. I've been working a lot with the IPO prep. But we were happy. Or I thought we were. I looked at Diana. Is this what you do? Follow people's cheating spouses? Sometimes. But I also do forensic accounting, corporate investigations, fraud cases. And Marcus, this is starting to feel less like an affair and more like fraud. What do you mean? Affairs are usually impulsive, emotional. People having affairs are careless. They forget to delete texts. They smell like someone else's cologne. They make mistakes. But this, secret storage units, systematic financial transfers, multiple credit cards, luxury apartment access, this is planned. This is methodical. Diana met my eyes. Someone is setting up a separate life with your money, very carefully, over months. That's not passion. That's calculation. The weight of her words settled over me like a shroud. This wasn't my wife falling for someone else in a moment of weakness. This was my wife systematically dismantling our life together while I was too busy working to notice. What do? First, you don't confront her. Not yet. We need more information. Second, you document everything. Screenshot every transaction, every charge, every account. Third, you might want to talk to a lawyer. A lawyer? The word felt like admitting defeat. A divorce attorney, yes. Not to file, not yet, but to protect yourself. If Elena is planning to leave, you need to understand your rights and your options. You're about to have an IPO, Marcus. Your company's worth millions. That makes you vulnerable. I'd never thought about it that way. I'd been so focused on building Heart Tech, on the technology and the business, that I hadn't considered what would happen to it, to my 60% ownership stake, if Elena and I divorced. She'd get half? Washington is a community property state. Anything acquired during the marriage is typically split 50-50. Unless you had a prenup? No. We got married young. We had nothing back then. A prenup seemed... I trailed off. It had seemed unromantic, unnecessary, a sign of not trusting each other. How naive I'd been. Then yes, she'd likely be entitled to half of everything, including your share of the company. But if she's been committing fraud, stealing from joint accounts, hiding assets, planning this in advance, those changes things. A judge might rule in your favor on the distribution, but we need proof. How do I prove it? You let me do my job, you keep acting normal at home, and you start protecting yourself. Diana pulled out a business card. This is James Corwin. He's a family law attorney I work with frequently. Call him today. Tell him I sent you. He'll guide you through the legal side while I handle the investigation. I took the card, staring at the embossed letters. James Corwin, attorney at law, family law and divorce. My marriage was really ending. Even if I hadn't fully accepted it yet, the evidence was undeniable. The woman I'd loved, the woman I'd built a life with, was betraying me in ways I was only beginning to understand. Marcus, Diana said gently, I know this is hard, but you did the right thing calling me. If this is what I think it is, finding out now gives you options. Waiting until she was ready to make her move would have left you blindsided. I nodded numbly. How long will it take? To find out what she's really doing. Could be days. Could be weeks. Depends on how careful she's been. But I'm good at this, and she's already made mistakes. Using joint accounts for personal purchases, visiting the same location repeatedly. People always make mistakes. We just need to find enough of them to build a complete picture. We parted ways with a plan. Diana would continue surveillance, trace the financial transfers, and try to identify who, if anyone, Elena was meeting at that Bellevue address. I would act normal, document everything, and call the attorney. As I drove back to my office, I felt like I was watching my life from outside my body. This morning, I'd been a happily married man about to take his company public. Now, in the span of a few hours, I'd learned my wife was stealing from me, lying to me, and possibly planning to leave me. And somehow I had to go home tonight, look her in the eyes, and pretend everything was fine. Tom was waiting when I got back to the office. He took one look at my face and ushered me into a conference room, closing the door behind us. "Okay, what's happening? And don't tell me nothing. I've known you too long." So I told him. Not everything. I couldn't bring myself to say all of it out loud yet, but enough. The strange behavior, the financial discrepancies, the private investigator. Tom listened, his expression growing darker. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Marcus, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say. You went through this with Jennifer. How did you handle it? Tom's divorce 2 years ago had been ugly." His ex-wife had tried to claim half his share of the company, arguing she'd supported him during the early years and deserved it. Diana Chen had helped him prove that Jennifer had actually been funneling company money to her own accounts, which had changed the judge's ruling significantly. "I handled it badly at first," Tom admitted. "I confronted Jennifer as soon as I suspected something. She denied everything, and I almost believed her. By the time I hired Diana, Jennifer had already moved a lot of money, and I had to fight twice as hard to get it back." He met my eyes. "Don't make my mistake. Don't confront Elena until you have everything you need to protect yourself. It feels wrong, like I'm the one doing something shady. You're protecting yourself from someone who's already betrayed you. That's not shady. That's smart." Tom leaned forward. "And Marcus, I know this is the worst timing with the IPO, but you need to think about the company too. If Elena goes after your shares in a divorce—" "I know. Diana mentioned it. We should probably tell the board. Not details, but that there might be personal circumstances that could impact the IPO timeline." The thought of telling our board of directors about my failing marriage made me want to sink through the floor. But Tom was right. We had responsibilities beyond just ourselves. We had employees, investors, partners. If this became public at the wrong time, it could derail everything we'd worked for. "Give me a few days," I said. "Let me talk to the attorney, see what our options are. Then we'll figure out what to tell the board." Tom nodded. "Whatever you need. And Marcus, I'm here for whatever you need. Okay?" The genuine concern in his voice almost broke me. I'd been holding it together through sheer force of will, but Tom's kindness threatened to crack my armor. "Thanks, man. That means a lot." I spent the rest of the afternoon in a blur of conference calls and emails, grateful for the distraction of work. But at 5:30, when I usually started wrapping up, panic set in. I had to go home. I had to face Elena. I called James Corwin on the drive home. His assistant got me an appointment for tomorrow morning at 8. "Mr. Corwin has reviewed Ms. Chen's initial notes," she said. "He'll be prepared to discuss your options, how quickly life could change." Yesterday, I'd needed none of this. No private investigators, no divorce attorneys, no options to discuss. Yesterday, my biggest worry had been closing a deal in San Francisco. Elena's car was already in our garage when I arrived. I sat in my car for a moment, steeling myself before heading up. She was in the kitchen, cooking, something that smelled amazing, her famous chicken piccata, my favorite. She'd changed into leggings and one of my old college sweatshirts, her hair down, looking soft and domestic, and utterly unlike the glamorous woman who'd been photographed entering a luxury condo that morning. "Hey, honey!" She smiled when she saw me, coming over to kiss me. "I thought we could have a nice dinner together. I feel like we haven't really connected lately." I kissed her back, tasting wine on her lips. There was an open bottle of red on the counter, expensive, probably from the collection I'd been building in our climate-controlled wine cabinet. "Smells great," I managed. "How was your day?" "Oh, you know, meetings, emails, the usual boring stuff." She turned back to the stove, stirring the sauce. "How about you? Did the San Francisco deal go through?" "Yeah, signed and sealed. That's wonderful. We should celebrate. I got us a reservation at Canlis for Saturday night. Canlis, one of the most expensive restaurants in Seattle. When had she made that reservation? Before or after spending the morning in a secret apartment? Sounds perfect, I said, the lie smooth on my tongue. We ate dinner together, and it was surreal. She asked about my day, laughed at my stories, touched my hand across the table. If I hadn't known what I knew, I would have thought we were a happy couple enjoying an evening together. But I did know. I knew about the charges on our credit cards. I knew about the missing money from our savings. I knew about the storage unit and the luxury apartment and the overnight bag. I knew I was sitting across from a woman who was lying to my face while smiling and asking me to pass the bread. After dinner, she suggested we watch a movie, curling up against me on the couch like she used to. I put my arm around her, feeling the familiar weight of her against my side, and wondered how long she'd been pretending. How many of these moments had been lies? Around 10, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I saw something flicker across her face. Then she smiled and set it down. Just work stuff. I'll deal with it tomorrow. But I'd seen the lock screen for a split second. A text from a contact labeled GW. Just 2 words visible in the preview. We need GW. Who was GW? Elena went to bed around 11, but I stayed up claiming I had some work emails to handle. Once I heard her breathing slow and even, I pulled out my phone and opened our cellular account. It took me 20 minutes to navigate to the section showing text message logs. I couldn't see the content of the messages. The carrier didn't store that, but I could see numbers and frequency. Elena's phone showed dozens of texts over the past month to a number I didn't recognize. Some days, 50 or 60 texts, back and forth at all hours. My hands shook as I copied the number and sent it to Diana. Can you identify who this belongs to? Her response came back in under a minute. On it. I sat there in the dark living room, our city glittering below, and felt the last remnants of my old life crumbling away. Whatever was happening, whoever GW was, whatever Elena was planning, it was real. It was happening. And tomorrow, I would start fighting back. I barely slept again. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that text preview. We need. What did they need? Who was GW? The questions spiraled through my mind like a hurricane, each one spawning 10 more. Around 3 a.m., I got up and went to my home office, careful not to wake Elena. I pulled up our bank accounts again, going through them line by line with a level of scrutiny I should have been applying all along. The more I looked, the worse it got. There were charges I'd missed earlier. A car rental in Vancouver for 3 days, $847. When had Elena gone to Vancouver for 3 days? I would have remembered a trip like that. But checking my calendar, I found it. 2 months ago, right when I'd been in Boston for a tech conference. She'd said she was staying in Seattle, working from home. Another charge caught my eye. Seattle Fertility Clinic, $2,300. Dated 6 weeks ago. My heart stuttered. Were we trying to get pregnant? Elena had mentioned wanting kids eventually, but we'd agreed to wait until after the IPO, until things settled down. Why would she go to a fertility clinic without telling me? Unless she wasn't there for fertility treatment. Fertility clinics also did other things, DNA testing, paternity tests. The thought made my stomach lurch. Was Elena pregnant? With someone else's child? Was that what this was all about? I grabbed my phone and added the charge to my growing list of screenshots, then sent it to Diana with a question. Can you find out what service this charge was for? Her response was immediate despite the hour. I'll try. Courts can subpoena medical records, but PI can't. We'll see what I can learn other ways. You awake? Can't sleep. Normal. But get rest if you can. You have Corwin at 8. You need to be sharp. She was right. I forced myself back to bed, lying there in the dark next to my wife, wondering who she really was. The woman I'd married, or someone I'd never really known at all. James Corwin's office was in a sleek building downtown, all glass and steel and expensive art. His assistant, a polished woman in her 50s, offered me coffee and showed me to a conference room with a view of Elliott Bay. Corwin himself appeared a few minutes later, mid-50s, Silver hair, expensive suit, carrying a leather portfolio. He had the air of someone who'd seen every type of marital disaster and couldn't be shocked by anything anymore. Mr. Hart, James Corwin. His handshake was firm. Diana sent over her preliminary findings. I've reviewed everything. This is a complicated situation. That's one word for it. He smiled grimly. Let me lay out where we are legally. Washington is a no-fault divorce state, which means you don't need to prove wrongdoing to divorce. However, wrongdoing absolutely matters when it comes to property division. If we can prove your wife has been committing fraud, stealing marital assets, hiding money, planning to leave, a judge may award you more than the standard 50-50 split. How much more? Depends on the evidence and the judge. Could be 60-40, could be 70-30. In extreme cases, I've seen 80-20. But you need solid proof, not just suspicious behavior. What about the company? My shares in Hart Tech? Corwin leaned back. That's where it gets complicated. Your company was founded during the marriage, correct? Yes, 3 years before we married, but it was still small then. Most of the growth has been during our marriage. Then your wife has a legitimate claim to a portion of it. However, if we can prove she's been planning to damage you or the company, or if she's been stealing marital funds, we can argue she's forfeited her right to that portion. It's not guaranteed, but it's possible. What do I need to do? First, document everything. Every charge, every transfer, every lie you can prove. Second, we file a motion to freeze all joint accounts once we have enough evidence. That prevents her from draining them before you can act. Third, we prepare for the possibility that this gets ugly. Uglier than it already is. Mr. Hart, Marcus, I've been doing this for 26 years. When large sums of money are involved, divorces become warfare. Your wife has been planning something for at least 3 months, possibly longer. That means she's thought about this, prepared for it. When you make your move, she'll fight back. We need to be ready. The thought made me feel sick. This was Elena, the woman who used to leave me love notes in my lunch. The woman who'd held my hand through my father's funeral. How had we gotten here? There's something else, Corwin continued. Diana mentioned you're about to go public. What's the timeline on that? 6 weeks. Maybe 7 if there are regulatory delays. That IPO will make your shares worth significantly more. If your wife knows about it, and I assume she does, that's likely part of her timeline too. She's probably planning to file for divorce right after the IPO when the shares are at their maximum value. The pieces clicked together. The timing of everything. The storage unit rented 3 months ago, the increased spending, the secretive behavior, it all lined up with our IPO preparation. So what do I do? Wait for her to file? No. We prepare our own filing and we execute when we have maximum evidence and maximum advantage. The person who files first often sets the tone for the entire proceedings. But we need to be strategic about timing. We spent another hour going through my finances in detail, Corwin taking notes and asking pointed questions. By the time I left his office, I had homework. Pull together every financial document from the past 3 years, compile a list of all our assets, and document any instances of Elena lying about her whereabouts. I was walking back to my car when Diana called. I have something. Can you meet me? Where? Your office. 20 minutes. She sounded tense, which sent my anxiety spiking. I drove to Hart Tech, my mind racing through possibilities. What had she found? Diana was waiting in the lobby. I brought her up to my office, closing the door behind us. She pulled out her tablet without preamble. The phone number you sent me last night? It belongs to a Gregory Westfield, age 52, lives in Bellevue, works as a wealth management consultant for high net worth individuals. Wealth management? Why would Elena be texting a wealth manager dozens of times a day? That's what I wanted to know. So I did some digging into Mr. Westfield's background. Diana swiped through her notes. He specializes in helping clients with complex financial situations. Emphasis on complex. 5 years ago, he was investigated by the SEC for helping a client hide assets during a divorce. Nothing was proven, but the client ended up getting a very favorable settlement. My blood ran cold. You think Elena hired him to help her hide our money? I think it's possible. But there's more. Diana pulled up a photo on her tablet. This is from this morning. Your wife's apartment building in Bellevue. The photo showed Elena exiting the building. But she wasn't alone. Next to her was a man, tall, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit. He was holding a briefcase, and they were mid-conversation, both looking serious. That's Westfield? I asked. That's him. And before you ask, I've been following them all morning. They went to breakfast at a cafe in downtown Bellevue, very professional. Then to a bank, First National. They were inside for 40 minutes. When they came out, Elena was carrying documents. What kind of documents? I couldn't see clearly, but Marcus, people don't spend 40 minutes in a bank with a wealth manager unless they're doing something significant. Opening accounts, transferring funds, setting up trusts, something big. I sank into my desk chair feeling dizzy, so she's not having an affair. I don't think so. Or if she is, that's not the primary thing happening here. This looks like financial planning. Systematic professional financial planning with a consultant who specializes in hiding assets. Why? If she wants a divorce, she can just file. Community property means she gets half anyway. Diana sat down across from me. That's what I keep asking myself. Unless she's not planning to file for divorce in the normal way, what other way is there? If you were to die, Marcus, what would happen to your assets? The question hit me like a physical blow. Die? You think, no, that's insane. Elena wouldn't. I'm not saying she would. I'm saying we need to consider all possibilities. When someone is systematically hiding assets, meeting with financial consultants who specialize in complex situations, and spending hours in banks setting up unknown accounts, we have to ask why. What's the end game? My hands were shaking. I couldn't process what she was suggesting. Elena wouldn't hurt me. She's not capable of that. I hope you're right. But I've seen a lot of things in this job, Marcus, and I've learned that people are capable of almost anything when enough money is involved. Diana leaned forward. I need you to check something for me. Do you have life insurance? Yes, a policy through the company. $500,000, I think. Elena's the beneficiary. Can you access the details? When was it set up? Has it been changed recently? Who manages it? I logged into our company benefits portal, pulling up my insurance information. The policy was there, $500,000, with Elena listed as beneficiary. But something caught my eye. That's weird, I muttered. What? The policy amount. I could have sworn it was $500,000, but it shows $2.5 million here. Diana's expression went very still. When was it changed? I clicked through to the change history. 3 weeks ago. There's a form here, submitted electronically, increasing the coverage amount. It's signed by me. Is that your signature? I looked at the scanned document. The signature looked like mine, similar enough that someone glancing at it wouldn't question it. But I knew my own signature, and this was slightly off. The tail on the H was wrong, and the way the R connected to the T wasn't quite right. It's forged, I said, my voice hollow. Diana photographed the screen. Who has access to your company benefits portal? Just me. You need a username and password plus two-factor authentication sent to my phone. Does Elena have access to your phone? I thought about all the times I'd left my phone on the nightstand, in the bathroom, charging in the kitchen. She could have if she wanted to. We've never been secretive about our phones, or we weren't until recently. So she could have used your phone to receive the authentication code, then logged in and submitted the form with a forged signature. But why? I mean, I get that a bigger payout is better for her if something happens to me, but I stopped, hearing my own words. If something happens to me. Diana's expression was grim. I'm going to say something, and I need you to listen carefully. Your wife has been meeting secretly with a wealth manager who specializes in hiding assets. She's opened unknown accounts and transferred significant money. She's forged your signature to increase your life insurance by $2 million. She's rented a storage unit you know nothing about. She's lying about her whereabouts regularly. And you're about to have an IPO that will make you worth tens of millions of dollars. You think she's planning to kill me?" The words felt absurd coming out of my mouth. This was real life, not a crime drama. Elena was my wife. We'd built a life together. She couldn't be planning to murder me. Could she? "I think we need to consider it as a possibility," Diana said carefully. "I'm not saying that's definitely what's happening, but the pattern of behavior is concerning enough that we need to investigate further, and you need to be careful." "Careful how?" "Don't eat or drink anything she prepares that you haven't watched the entire time. Don't let her have access to your medications. Be aware of your surroundings. And for God's sake, don't confront her about any of this until we know more. This was insane. This couldn't be my life. 3 days ago, I was a happily married man running a successful company. Now a private investigator was telling me my wife might be planning to kill me for my money. "I need to go home tonight," I said. "She'll think it's weird if I don't." "I know. Just be careful. Lock your bedroom door if you can do it without raising suspicion." "And Marcus?" Diana stood up. "I'm going to step up surveillance. I'll have someone on your building 24/7 watching who comes and goes. If anything happens, if you feel unsafe at all, you call me immediately. Or you call 911. Don't hesitate." After Diana left, I sat in my office for a long time, staring out at the Seattle skyline. My phone buzzed with a text from Elena. "How's your day going? Miss you?" I stared at the heart emoji, wondering if the woman who sent it was the same woman who'd forged my signature to increase my life insurance policy. Wondering if she was planning my death while texting me love notes. I typed back, "Good. Miss you too. See you tonight." The lie came easily now. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize, someone who smiled and lied and pretended, just like her. Tom knocked on my door around 3. "Hey, you okay? You've been in here all day." "I'm fine. Just dealing with some stuff. The Elena stuff?" I nodded. "What did the lawyer say?" I told him, not all of it, not the part about Diana's suspicions, but enough. The forged signature, the wealth manager, the hidden accounts. Tom's expression grew darker with each detail. "Jesus, Marcus. This is serious. Have you thought about what this means for the company? If something happens to you, nothing's going to happen to me. But if it did, your shares would go to Elena, right? And then she could sell them to anyone. She could sell them to Cross, Daniel Cross, our biggest competitor, the man who'd tried to buy Heart Tech 2 years ago when we'd hit a rough patch. We'd refused, and he'd been bitter about it ever since. She wouldn't. She knows how much this company means to me. Marcus, she forged your signature and increased your life insurance by $2 million. I don't think she cares what the company means to you." Tom ran a hand through his hair. "We need to talk to the board. We need to put protections in place. A key person insurance policy, maybe, or a buyback agreement that prevents shares from being sold to certain people. Can we even do that now, this close to the IPO? I don't know, but we need to try. This isn't just about you anymore. We have 30 employees whose livelihoods depend on this company. We have investors who've put millions into us. We can't let one person, even if that person is your wife, potentially destroy all of that." He was right. I knew he was right. But the thought of telling our board of directors that my wife might be planning to kill me for my shares in the company was humiliating beyond measure. "Give me until Monday," I said. "Let me talk to Diana and the lawyer. See what they think. Then we'll figure out what to tell the board." Tom agreed reluctantly. After he left, I forced myself to focus on work for a few hours, reviewing code and responding to emails. The normalcy of it was almost comforting. These were problems I understood, problems I could solve. At 6, I headed home, Diana's warnings echoing in my mind. Be careful what you eat and drink. Lock your door. Watch your surroundings. Elena was home when I arrived, and once again she'd made dinner. Pasta carbonara, another favorite of mine. She'd set the table with candles and our good wine glasses. "I thought we could have a nice evening together," she said, smiling. "It feels like we've barely seen each other this week." I looked at the food, at the wine, at my wife's smiling face. Was she poisoning me? Was this dinner safe? Or was I being paranoid, letting Diana's suspicions turn me into someone who couldn't trust his own wife? "Smells amazing," I said, sitting down. But I didn't eat right away. I watched as Elena served herself first. Watched as she took a bite of pasta, a sip of wine. Only then did I start eating, and even then I found myself chewing slowly, waiting for some sign that something was wrong. Nothing happened. The food was delicious, the wine was good, and Elena chatted about her day. Lies, probably, but pleasant ones. We could have been any couple enjoying dinner together. Except I was wondering if my wife was planning to kill me. After dinner, Elena went to take a shower. I heard the water running and seized the opportunity to look around. Her purse was on the kitchen counter. I'd never snooped through her things before, but I also hadn't known she was forging my signature and hiding money in secret accounts. Inside her purse, wallet, keys, makeup, phone charger, and a small amber prescription bottle. I pulled it out, my hands trembling. The label read, "Marcus Hart, Ambien 10 mg, take one at bedtime for insomnia." I stood there staring at the bottle. I'd never had insomnia. I'd never been prescribed Ambien. But here it was in my wife's purse with my name on it. I counted the pills. There should have been 30 if it was freshly filled. There were 23. 7 pills missing. 7 nights of sleep I didn't remember consenting to. 7 nights when Elena could have done anything while I was drugged unconscious. The bathroom door opened. I shoved the bottle back into her purse and moved to the sink, running water like I'd been washing dishes. "Hey, honey, do we have any more of that lavender body wash?" Elena called out. "Check under the sink in the guest bathroom," I called back, my voice remarkably steady. I heard her pad down the hallway. As soon as she was gone, I pulled out my phone and photographed the prescription bottle, making sure the label was clear. Then I texted Diana, found Ambien prescription in her purse, in my name. I never got this prescription. 7 pills missing. Her response was immediate. "Get out of the house. Now. Hotel. Somewhere she doesn't know about." But I couldn't just leave. Elena would know something was wrong. And if she really was planning something, tipping her off now could be dangerous. Can't. Would raise suspicion. I'll lock my door. "Be careful. I'm sending someone to watch your building tonight." I deleted the texts and put my phone away just as Elena returned to the kitchen. "Found it," she said, holding up the body wash. Then she looked at me more closely. "You okay? You look pale." "Just tired. Long day. You've been working too hard. You should take something to help you sleep." Her hand went to her purse, and for a moment I thought she was going to pull out the Ambien, going to offer me one of those pills with my own name on them. Instead, she pulled out a packet of melatonin. "Here, try this. It's natural, non-habit forming. I take it sometimes when I'm stressed." I took the packet, thanking her, and watched as she headed to the bedroom. Was the melatonin safe, or had she tampered with it somehow? I couldn't live like this, suspecting everything, trusting nothing. But I also couldn't confront her, not yet, not without more evidence. That night, I locked our bedroom door from the inside, claiming I wanted to make sure we weren't disturbed after a stressful week. Elena thought it was romantic, cuddling close to me. I lay awake for hours, listening to her breathe, feeling the warmth of her body against mine, and wondered what she was really thinking. Was she planning my death in the same bed where we'd made love hundreds of times? Was she calculating how much money she'd get? How soon she could cash out? Or was I losing my mind, turning the woman I loved into a monster based on suspicious circumstances and a private investigator's theories? I didn't know anymore. But I knew one thing. I couldn't keep living like this. Something had to give. Either I'd discover the truth about what Elena was planning, or I'd discover I'd been wrong about all of it. Either way, this limbo couldn't continue. Tomorrow I'd call Diana and Corwin. Tomorrow we'd make a plan to end this, one way or another. But tonight I just had to survive until morning. The next morning, Elena kissed me goodbye before heading to what she claimed was an early morning meeting. I watched from the window as her car pulled out of the garage, then immediately called Diana. "I need to know what's in that storage unit," I said without preamble. "Marcus, I told you, I can't legally access it without a warrant or her permission." "What if I gave you permission? It's a marital asset, right? Community property means it's mine too." There was a pause. "That's an interesting legal argument. Let me call Corwin and see what he says." While I waited, I made coffee, checking the grounds first to make sure they looked normal, which made me feel insane, and opened my laptop. Diana had asked me to document everything, so I started a detailed timeline. Every suspicious incident, every lie, every strange charge. The timeline revealed a pattern I'd missed before. Elena's behavior had changed exactly 3 months ago, right after my meeting with our investment bankers about the IPO. We'd celebrated that night, talking about how our lives were about to change, how we'd be wealthy beyond what we'd imagined. Had that been the moment she'd decided? Had my success triggered her plan? Diana called back within the hour. "Corwin says it's legally gray but probably defensible, especially since the unit was rented using joint funds. I'm going over there now. Meet me at the Redmond storage facility in 30 minutes. I drove to Redmond, my heart pounding. What would we find? Part of me hoped it would be something innocent, old furniture, sentimental items from her childhood. But I knew better. Diana was waiting in the parking lot with bolt cutters when I arrived. "Unit 247. You sure you want to do this?" "I'm sure." The storage facility was huge, rows of identical orange doors stretching in every direction. We found 247 in the back corner. Small, maybe 5x5. I tried Elena's birthday as the combination for the lock. It didn't work. I tried our anniversary. Nothing. "Let me try," Diana said. She had a small electronic device that she attached to the lock. Within 2 minutes, it clicked open. The unit was dim, lit only by the hallway lights behind us. Diana pulled out a flashlight and shined it inside. "Jesus Christ," she muttered. The unit was meticulously organized. On one side, boxes labeled with dates, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, 1 month ago. On the other side, a filing cabinet. And in the back, a garment bag and 2 suitcases. Diana started photographing everything with her phone before we touched anything. Then we began going through the boxes. The first box contained copies of financial documents. Our joint accounts, my business accounts, investment statements, all meticulously organized in folders. But these weren't just copies of statements. There were handwritten notes in Elena's writing: transfer to account 7734, cash withdrawal, no trace, move before March 15th. "She's been planning this for months," I said, staring at the notes. "This is like a battle plan. Keep looking." The next box contained prepaid credit cards, dozens of them, each loaded with $500. I did quick math. At least $10,000 in prepaid, untraceable cards. The third box made my blood run cold. It contained documents I'd never seen before. A fake driver's license in Elena's name but with a different address. A passport application with a different spelling of her last name. Bank statements for accounts I knew nothing about. "She's creating a new identity," Diana said, photographing everything. "This isn't just divorce preparation. This is disappearance preparation." The filing cabinet was worse. The top drawer contained insurance documents, my policy, but also information about how death benefits were paid out, how long the process took, what was required for proof of death. There were printouts from websites about life insurance policies, highlighted sections about contestability periods and accidental death clauses. The second drawer had medical records. But not mine. Not exactly. They were medical records in my name, from doctors I'd never seen, documenting conditions I'd never had. Depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation. "She's creating a false medical history," I whispered. "She's making it look like I'm mentally ill." Diana's jaw was tight. "This is beyond divorce fraud, Marcus. This is... I need to call the police. This crosses into criminal territory." "Wait." I grabbed her arm. "If we call the police now, what happens?" "She gets arrested, maybe. But we don't know the whole plan yet." We don't know who else is involved or what they're planning to do. Marcus, these documents suggest she's planning to kill you and make it look like suicide. That's attempted murder. We can't just wait and see what happens. I'm not saying we wait. I'm saying we need more evidence. Evidence of conspiracy. Evidence of intent. Evidence that will actually put her away, not just let her post bail and disappear with new identity documents. Diana thought about it, then nodded reluctantly. Okay, but we document everything here, and we tell Corwin immediately. And you don't go home alone, not until we figure out what's happening. We spent another hour photographing every document, every note, every piece of Elena's escape plan. The garment bag contained a wig, blonde when Elena was naturally brunette, and colored contact lenses. The suitcases held clothes, cash, and more documents. In the very back of the unit, hidden under a blanket, we found a laptop. Diana pulled it out carefully. "We should take this," she said. "Won't she notice it's missing? Do you care at this point?" She was right. We took the laptop, sealed the storage unit back up, and left. We met Corwin at his office an hour later. He reviewed the photographs with an increasingly grim expression. "This is actionable," he finally said. "The forged medical records alone are criminal fraud. Add in the insurance fraud, the identity documents, the clear planning to disappear. Marcus, you need to file a police report. Today. What if she runs? What if tipping her off means she disappears and we never see her again?" "Then at least you're alive," Corwin said bluntly. "Because right now, based on what Diana has found, I believe your life is in danger. Real, imminent danger." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. The evidence was overwhelming. The fake medical records were the final piece. Elena wasn't just planning to leave me, she was planning to kill me and make it look like I'd taken my own life. Then she'd cash out the insurance policy, disappear with her new identity, and live off my death. "What about Westfield?" I asked. "He has to be helping her. How do we prove that?" "That's Diana's job," Corwin said. "But Marcus, we need to prioritize your safety. Whatever evidence we're gathering, it's not worth your life." Diana's phone rang. She stepped out to take it, returning a few minutes later with a strange expression. That was my contact at the credit bureau. "I had her run a full report on Westfield, looking for any connections to your wife." She sat down, pulling up something on her tablet. "Gregory Westfield has been married 3 times. His second wife died 4 years ago, officially ruled a heart attack, but there was an investigation. The insurance payout was $1.8 million. The room went silent. "They ruled it natural causes," Diana continued. "But I just spoke to the detective who worked the case. He told me off the record that they suspected the wife had been poisoned with digitalis. It mimics heart attack symptoms, but they couldn't prove it. By the time they got suspicious, the body had been cremated. And he walked away with almost $2 million, I said. He did. And now he's helping your wife plan something very similar." Corwin stood up. "That's it. We're calling the police. Now. This man has done this before, and he's doing it again. Marcus, you're filing a protective order, and we're getting you to a safe location. My company. We'll survive without you for a few days. You won't survive if you're dead." He was right. I knew he was right. But admitting it felt like defeat, like letting Elena win. Still, I nodded. "Okay, let's call them." Detective Sarah Morrison arrived at Corwin's office 2 hours later. She was in her mid-40s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense, and she listened to our story without interruption. Then she reviewed Diana's photographs and evidence, making notes. "This is serious," she finally said. "I'm going to be honest with you, Mr. Hart. What you've described is conspiracy to commit murder. But proving it in court requires more than suspicious behavior and planning documents. We need evidence of an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means we need to catch them actually doing something illegal, not just planning it, doing it. Otherwise, a defense attorney will argue they were just exploring options, doing research that they never intended to follow through. So what do I do? Wait until they try to kill me? No. We set up a sting." Morrison looked at Diana. You said you have surveillance on both the wife and Westfield? I do. Good. Keep it up. And Mr. Hart, I need you to wear a wire. A wire? When you go home tonight, I want you to try to get your wife talking about her plans. Ask questions that might make her reveal details. We'll be listening, and if she says anything incriminating, we can move in immediately. The thought of confronting Elena while wearing a police wire made my stomach churn. But if it meant catching her, proving what she was planning, keeping her from doing this to someone else, I had to do it. Okay, I said, I'll do it. Morrison set it up for that evening. I'd go home at my normal time, wearing a recording device. Diana would be outside with Morrison and another detective, listening to everything. If things went wrong, if Elena tried something, they'd be there in seconds. Just try to act natural, Morrison coached me. Don't accuse her directly. Just ask questions. Express concern about your finances. See how she responds. Sometimes people reveal more when they think they're being sympathetic than when they're being defensive. I left Corwin's office feeling like I was preparing for battle. In a way, I was. That night could determine everything. Whether Elena went to prison, whether I survived this nightmare, whether I ever trusted anyone again. Tom called as I was driving back to my office. Marcus, we need to talk. Daniel Cross just called me. Cross? What did he want? He wants to meet. Says he has information about Elena that we need to hear. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. What kind of information? He wouldn't say over the phone. But Marcus? He sounded scared. Whatever he knows, it's serious. Daniel Cross, our competitor, the man who'd wanted to buy Heart Tech, who'd been bitter when we refused. What could he possibly know about Elena? Set up the meeting, I said, but make it public. Somewhere with lots of people. Tomorrow, okay? Lunch at that place in Pioneer Square? Tomorrow's fine. I spent the rest of the afternoon at my office, trying to work but mostly just watching the clock. At 5:30, I met Diana and Morrison in a parking garage near my building. Morrison fitted me with a wire, a tiny microphone that clipped to my shirt, almost invisible. Test, she said. Can you hear me? I nodded, then realized she couldn't see me from the van. Yes, I can hear you. Good. Remember, stay calm, ask questions, don't directly accuse her. We just need her to talk. If you feel unsafe at any moment, say the code word coffee. That's our signal to come in. Coffee. Got it. I drove home, my heart pounding so hard I thought the microphone would pick it up. Elena's car was already in the garage. As I rode the elevator up, I rehearsed what I'd say, how I'd act. The door to our apartment opened to reveal Elena in the kitchen again, cooking dinner again. It was becoming a pattern, her domesticity, her apparent devotion. All of it fake, all of it part of her plan. Hey, honey, she said, smiling. How was your day? Long. How about yours? Same. Lots of meetings. She turned back to the stove. I'm making that stir-fry you like. I watched her cook. This woman I'd loved. This woman who was planning to kill me. The wire pressed against my chest, a reminder that every word was being recorded. That this was my chance to get the truth. Elena, can we talk about something? I said, sitting at the kitchen island. Of course. What's on your mind? Our finances. I was looking at the accounts yesterday, and I noticed some large transfers I don't remember discussing. Do you know anything about that? Her hand paused in its stirring, just for a second. Then she continued, her voice casual. Oh, those. I've been working with a financial consultant. You've been so busy with the IPO, I didn't want to bother you with the details. A financial consultant? Who? His name is Gregory Westfield. He specializes in helping couples prepare for major financial changes. I thought it would be good to get professional advice before the IPO. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted to surprise you. She turned, smiling. I've been setting up some investment accounts, planning for our future. I was going to tell you after the IPO, once everything was finalized. I forced myself to stay calm, to keep my voice neutral. What kind of investment accounts? Just diversification. Westfield suggested we shouldn't have all our eggs in one basket, especially with the company going public. Market volatility and all that. She brought over 2 plates, setting one in front of me. He's really smart, Marcus. You'd like him. I'd like to meet him. Can you set that up? Something flickered in her eyes. Suspicion. Fear. Sure, I'll ask him. But he's pretty busy. Lots of high-net-worth clients. I looked down at my plate. The stir-fry looked delicious, but I couldn't shake Diana's warnings. Don't eat or drink anything she prepares. You know what? I'm not that hungry. Long day, my stomach's a bit off. Elena frowned. You need to eat something. You've been so stressed lately. Actually, I've been worried about you. Worried how? Your mood, your sleep. You seem different, more anxious than usual. She reached across the table, taking my hand. Marcus, have you thought about talking to someone? A therapist, maybe? There's no shame in it. The IPO is stressful, and you're carrying so much pressure. I stared at her, realizing what she was doing. She was building the narrative. The concerned wife, worried about her husband's mental health. Setting up the story for later, for when they found my body. I'm fine, I said. Are you? Because I've noticed you've been acting paranoid. Questioning things, seeming suspicious. That's not like you. Her grip on my hand tightened. I'm your wife, Marcus. You can trust me. You can tell me if something's wrong. The word trust hit me like a slap. She'd used it that first night, demanded that I trust her. And here she was, using it again, gaslighting me into thinking my suspicions were symptoms of mental illness rather than justified reactions to her lies. What about the storage unit? I asked, pulling my hand away. The one in Redmond? What's that for? Her expression went completely blank. For just a second, I saw real fear in her eyes. Then she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Storage unit? I don't know what you're talking about. Unit 247, rented 3 months ago in your name. Marcus, I think you're confused. I don't have a storage unit. She stood up, her voice taking on a concerned, almost condescending tone. Honey, this is what I'm talking about. You're imagining things, creating problems that don't exist. I think you really need to see someone. I saw the documents, Elena. The bank statements, the fake IDs, the medical records in my name. I know what you're planning. The moment I said it, I knew I'd made a mistake. Morrison had told me not to confront her directly, but the words had spilled out, months of fear and betrayal and anger finally erupting. Elena's face went very still. When she spoke, her voice was cold, all pretense of concern gone. You went through my things. Your things? They're fake medical records in my name, Elena. Records saying I'm suicidal when I'm not. You're not supposed to know about those yet. The words came out before she could stop them, and I saw her realize her mistake. She'd just admitted it. Yet? When was I supposed to know? After you killed me? Don't be dramatic. Nobody's killing anyone. But her hand had moved to her phone on the counter. Who was she texting? Westfield? Then what's the plan, Elena? Take out a huge life insurance policy in my name, forge medical records to make it look like I'm unstable, drug me with Ambien I never consented to, and then what? Stage my suicide? Push me off a building? What's the end game here? She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her mind working, calculating her options. Finally, she said, You don't understand. You've never understood. Then explain it to me. You're always working, Marcus. Always focused on your company, your success, your dreams. What about my dreams? What about my life? Her voice rose, taking on a hysterical edge that sounded rehearsed. I've sacrificed everything for you. My career, my ambitions, my youth. And for what? To be the wife of a tech CEO? To smile at your company parties and pretend I'm fulfilled? So your solution is to kill me? My solution is to take what I deserve. You're about to be worth $40 million, and half of that is mine. I earned it, putting up with your obsession with that company for years. But you know what? Half isn't enough. Not after what I've given up. There it was. The truth, finally. She wanted it all. So you teamed up with Westfield. A man who's done this before, isn't he? His second wife died under suspicious circumstances. Did he tell you that? Did he tell you he got away with nearly $2 million that time? Elena's eyes narrowed. You've been investigating us. Of course you have. Probably hired some private detective, playing spy like you're in a movie. She laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. You're so predictable, Marcus. Always trying to control everything, to know everything. I'm trying to survive my wife trying to murder me. I said nobody's killing anyone. But her voice lacked conviction now. She knew I had evidence. She knew the plan was falling apart. Okay, yes, I've been planning to leave you. Yes, I've been setting up accounts. But that's not illegal. People prepare for divorce all the time. The forged medical records are illegal. The forged signature on my insurance policy is illegal. The Ambien prescription in my name that I never consented to, that's illegal. You can't prove any of that. I have pictures of everything. The storage unit, the documents, all of it. And the police are listening to this conversation right now. Elena froze. What? I pulled out the wire, showing her the microphone clipped to my shirt. Detective Morrison is outside with a warrant for your arrest. For conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, identity theft, and about a dozen other charges. For a moment, she just stared at me. Then she bolted. She ran for the bedroom, and I heard her scrambling around, probably grabbing her go bag, her fake IDs, whatever she needed to run. I didn't follow her. Instead, I said clearly, for the benefit of the recording, coffee. I need coffee. It was the code word. Within 30 seconds, I heard pounding on our apartment door. Police! Open up! I opened the door to find Detective Morrison and 3 uniformed officers. She's in the bedroom, I said. They moved past me quickly, and I heard Morrison's voice. Elena Hart, you're under arrest. Put your hands where I can see them. There was a brief scuffle, Elena screaming that this was a mistake, that I was crazy, that she hadn't done anything wrong. But Morrison was professional, calm, reading Elena her rights as she cuffed her. They brought her out through the living room. Elena looked at me, and there was such hatred in her eyes that I actually took a step back. You'll regret this, she hissed. You have no idea what you've done. I've stopped you from killing me. I'm okay with that. This isn't over, Marcus. Not even close. They led her away. Diana appeared in the doorway, having been waiting with Morrison's team. You okay? She asked. Was I okay? My wife had just been arrested for trying to kill me. My marriage was over. My life as I knew it was destroyed. But I was alive. I'm alive, I said. That's something. She's right about one thing, though, Diana said quietly. This isn't over. Westfield is still out there, and we don't know what else they had planned. You need to be somewhere safe tonight, somewhere she doesn't know about. Morrison came back in. We're taking her to the station for booking. I'll need you to come down tomorrow to give a formal statement. But Mr. Hart, Ms. Chen is right. You shouldn't stay here tonight. If Westfield realizes she's been arrested, he might try to clean up loose ends. The thought sent a chill through me. I wasn't just dealing with Elena anymore. I was dealing with a professional who'd done this before, who'd killed before and gotten away with it. I'll get a hotel, I said. Use cash, Diana advised. Don't leave a digital trail. And Marcus, don't trust anyone, not until we have Westfield in custody, too. I spent that night in a cheap hotel near the airport, paid in cash, registered under a fake name. I didn't sleep. Every sound in the hallway made me jump. Every car door slamming outside made me think someone had found me. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hello? Mr. Hart. The voice was male, smooth, cultured. My name is Gregory Westfield. I think we should talk. My blood ran cold. How did you get this number? I have my ways. Elena is in custody, I understand. That's unfortunate. She was always too emotional, too impulsive. I told her to be patient, but she couldn't help herself. If you're calling to threaten me, threaten you, Mr. Hart, I'm calling to make you an offer. A business proposition, if you will. I'm not interested in any proposition from you. You should be. Because right now you have a problem. Elena is in jail, yes, but she's not talking. Not yet. And without her testimony, all that evidence you found, it's circumstantial. Suspicious, certainly, but not proof of murder conspiracy. A good lawyer could argue she was just preparing for divorce in an unfortunate way. The fake medical records could be explained away. Stress, confusion, miscommunication with doctors. You'd be amazed what a good attorney can make sound reasonable to a jury. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. What do you want? I want you to drop the charges. Let Elena go. In return, I'll make sure she leaves Seattle quietly and never bothers you again. You get your life back, your company, your reputation intact. Everyone wins, except Elena gets away with trying to kill me. Did she, though? Think about it, Mr. Hart. What actual evidence do you have that she was going to kill you? Plans aren't actions. Intentions aren't crimes. At worst, she's guilty of fraud, which is a slap on the wrist compared to murder conspiracy. She'll do a few years at most, probably less with good behavior. And then she'll be out, bitter and angry, with plenty of time to think about revenge. Are you threatening me? I'm explaining reality. But here's the thing. If you let her go now, make this go away quietly, I guarantee she'll disappear. New identity, new life, new continent even. You'll never hear from her again. Isn't that worth more than a public trial where all your dirty laundry gets aired? Think of your company, your IPO, your reputation. He was playing me, I knew it. But part of what he said made horrible sense. A trial would be public, messy, the media would have a field day. Tech CEO's wife tries to murder him for IPO money. Our company's reputation could take a hit. The IPO could be delayed or worse. I need time to think about it, I said. You have 24 hours. After that, Elena starts talking, and trust me, you don't want to hear what she has to say. She knows things, Mr. Hart. About your company, about your business practices, about decisions you've made that might not look so good in the light of a courtroom. I've done nothing illegal, haven't you? Are you absolutely certain about that? Every tax decision, every accounting choice, every business deal has been perfectly above board? Because Elena has been very thorough in documenting things over the years. She was always good with details. It was a bluff. It had to be. But what if it wasn't? What if Elena had evidence of something I'd overlooked? Some minor violation that could be blown up in court? I'll think about it, I repeated. 24 hours, Mr. Hart. Tick-tock. He hung up. I sat there in the dark hotel room, my phone clutched in my hand, wondering what I'd gotten myself into. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was chess, and I was playing against someone who'd done this before and won. I called Diana. She answered on the second ring, her voice alert despite the hour. Westfield just called me, I said, and told her everything. Son of a bitch, she muttered. He's good, I'll give him that. Making you second-guess prosecution, threatening your company. Classic intimidation. What if he's right, though? What if the evidence isn't enough? What if Elena walks? Then we get more evidence. Marcus, you can't negotiate with these people. The moment you show weakness, they own you. And if you let Elena go, what's to stop her from trying again? Or from Westfield finding another mark, another victim? But the company will survive. It's strong. It's got good leadership. It's got a great product. Don't let him use fear to manipulate you. She was right. I knew she was right. But I was exhausted, terrified, and starting to doubt everything. Get some sleep, Diana said. Tomorrow we meet with Morrison and figure out next steps. And Marcus, don't answer if Westfield calls again. Let it go to voicemail. Don't give him any more ammunition. I tried to sleep, but couldn't. When dawn finally broke, I checked out of the hotel and drove to Morrison's precinct. She was waiting with Corwin and Diana. Elena's been processed, Morrison said. She's claiming she's innocent, that you've been abusive, that everything was just preparation for leaving a dangerous marriage. Her lawyer is already talking about getting the charges reduced. Westfield called me last night, I said, and told them about the conversation. Morrison's expression darkened. That's intimidation and obstruction of justice. Did you record the call? No. I didn't think... It's okay. But if he calls again, record it. We need evidence of him trying to interfere with the case. She pulled up a file on her computer. We're putting together a warrant for Westfield's arrest. The evidence from the storage unit combined with Elena's arrest and his prior history should be enough. But it would be better if we could catch him in the act of something. Like what? like trying to intimidate you, or tampering with evidence, or meeting with Elena against court orders, something that shows active conspiracy. Morrison looked at me seriously. Mr. Hart, I know this is hard, but we need you to stay strong. Don't let Westfield's mind games work. Your wife tried to kill you for money. That's the truth, and we're going to prove it. I nodded, trying to feel as confident as she sounded. In the meantime, Corwin said, I'm filing emergency motions. Restraining order against Elena. She can't contact you or come within 500 feet. Freeze on all joint assets so she can't drain accounts from jail. And I'm expediting the divorce filing. Given the circumstances, we should be able to get this resolved quickly and heavily in your favor. What about the IPO? That's up to you and your board. But Marcus, this story is going to come out. The media will get wind of it. You need to control the narrative, get ahead of it, make a statement, show that you're the victim here, not the villain. A press conference. The thought made me nauseous. But Corwin was right. Better to tell our story than let tabloids tell it for us. I'll talk to Tom, I said. We'll figure out the company side of things. I left the police station feeling like I was holding my life together with duct tape and prayer. Everything was falling apart. But I had to keep moving forward. My phone buzzed. Tom. Where are you? We need to talk. Cross is here. Daniel Cross. I'd forgotten about the lunch meeting. I drove to Pioneer Square, my mind still reeling. The restaurant Tom had chosen was busy, full of business people on their lunch breaks. Tom and Cross were waiting in a corner booth. Cross stood when I arrived. He looked nervous, which was unusual for him. Daniel Cross was usually supremely confident, almost arrogant. Seeing him anxious put me on edge. Marcus, he said, thank you for meeting with me. I slid into the booth. Tom said you had information about Elena. I do. And I need to tell you before things get worse. He took a deep breath. Your wife approached me 2 months ago. She said she had a business proposition. She wanted to sell me your shares in Heart Tech after you died. The words hung in the air like a bomb. After I died, I repeated slowly. She didn't say it that bluntly at first. She talked about your health, about stress, about how she was worried you might have a heart attack. She asked hypothetically what I'd pay for controlling interest in the company. I thought it was weird, but I was interested, so I played along. And then she got more specific. She talked about timelines, about insurance policies, about how soon after your death she could legally sell. That's when I realized she wasn't talking hypothetically. Cross looked genuinely shaken. I told her I wasn't interested, that I'd won business honestly or not at all. But Marcus, she didn't seem surprised or upset. She just said she'd find another buyer. Did you record any of these conversations? I did. After the first meeting made me suspicious, I recorded the second one. I have it on my phone. He pulled it out, pulling up a voice memo. I almost went to the police, but I wasn't sure if I was overreacting. But then Tom called yesterday and said there was trouble with Elena, and I realized I needed to tell you. He played the recording. Elena's voice, clear and unmistakable. When Marcus is gone, and let's be honest, Daniel, with his stress levels and family history of heart disease, that could be sooner rather than later. I'll be looking to sell quickly. His shares will be worth at least $40 million post-IPO. I'd be willing to accept $30 million for a fast, quiet sale. No questions, no fuss. Cross's voice. You're talking about selling your husband's company after he dies. That's pretty cold, Elena. Elena laughing. It's practical. Marcus built something valuable. Why shouldn't I benefit from it? I've earned it, putting up with his obsession all these years. Consider it my retirement plan. The recording continued for another few minutes, Elena laying out her timeline, her expectations, her calculations. It was chilling how businesslike she sounded, discussing my death like it was just another transaction. When it ended, I sat there feeling sick. I'll testify, Cross said. Whatever you need. I'll give this recording to the police. I'll testify in court. What she's planning, it's wrong. You and I have been competitors, Marcus, but I've never wanted you dead, and I won't be part of this. Thank you, I managed. This is huge. This proves intent, conspiracy, planning. The DA can use this. There's one more thing, Cross said. After I turned her down, she mentioned she had other interested buyers. She specifically mentioned someone named Gregory Westfield. She said he had experience with these types of transitions. So Westfield wasn't just helping Elena with finances. He was going to be the buyer, the one to take my life's work after they killed me. It was all connected, all planned. I called Morrison immediately and told her about Cross's recording. She had him come to the station to give a formal statement and hand over the audio file. "This changes everything," she said when I spoke to her later. "This is direct evidence of conspiracy to commit murder. With this combined with everything else, we can file upgraded charges, and it gives us leverage to go after Westfield harder. When will you arrest him? Soon. We're putting together the warrant now. With Cross's testimony, we have enough." That night, I finally went back to my office building. Tom had set up a cot in one of our conference rooms. I still wasn't ready to go home to the apartment I'd shared with Elena. "The board wants to meet tomorrow," Tom said. "We need to tell them something. Tell them the truth. My wife tried to kill me. She's been arrested, and the IPO might be affected, but the company is strong and we'll get through this. That's blunt. It's honest. I'm done with lies, Tom. I'm done with pretending everything's fine when it's not." The board meeting the next morning was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. Sitting in front of 7 successful business people and explaining that my wife had been planning to murder me for my shares in the company was humiliating. But they surprised me. Instead of concern about the IPO or the company's reputation, their first questions were about my safety and well-being. "Marcus, are you okay?" asked Jennifer Wu, our lead investor. "Do you need time off? We can delay the IPO if you need to focus on this situation." "I appreciate that," I said. "But honestly, work is the only thing keeping me sane right now. I need the distraction, the focus, and our employees have worked too hard to let this delay things." "What about the media?" asked another board member. "We're preparing a statement, short, factual, emphasizing that this is a personal matter that won't affect company operations. We're also considering a press conference where I'll address it directly, control the narrative." They discussed it and ultimately agreed with the plan. The IPO would proceed on schedule unless circumstances changed dramatically. We'd be transparent with the media, protect our employees from harassment, and move forward. After the meeting, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in days. My board had my back. My company was safe. Now I just needed to make sure Westfield ended up in handcuffs next to Elena. That afternoon, Morrison called. "We arrested Westfield an hour ago. He was at his office destroying documents when we arrived. Probably got tipped off somehow that we were coming." "Is he talking?" "Not yet. But he will. They always do, eventually." She paused. "Marcus, you should know. We found something in Westfield's office that concerns me." "What?" "A file on you. Surveillance photos going back 6 months, detailed notes about your routine, your schedule, where you go, when you're alone. He's been studying you for a long time." The implication was clear. They'd been planning this for at least 6 months, maybe longer. Long before I'd noticed anything wrong. "How did I not see it?" I asked. "How did I not realize my own wife was planning to kill me?" "Because you trusted her. That's not a weakness, Marcus. It's human. She exploited that trust, but that's on her, not you." "Maybe, but I still felt like an idiot. I'd been so focused on work, on building the company, that I'd missed what was happening in my own home, my own marriage." Over the next week, things moved quickly. Elena and Westfield were both denied bail, flight risks given the fake IDs and overseas accounts. The DA charged them both with conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, identity theft, and a list of other crimes. Cross's recording was leaked to the media, and the story exploded. Tech CEO's wife plotted his murder for IPO millions. Wealth manager with deadly past helps, wife plan husband's death. Love, lies, and life insurance. Inside the plot to kill Marcus Hart. The headlines were sensational, embarrassing, everywhere. But surprisingly, the public response was sympathetic. I was seen as the victim, the hard-working businessman nearly destroyed by a gold-digging wife. Our IPO actually benefited from the attention. Our stock price went up when we finally went public, investors seeing me as a survivor, someone who'd overcome incredible adversity. But none of that made me feel better. I'd lost my wife. Or rather, I discovered I'd never really had her. I'd lost 3 years of my life to a lie. And I had to rebuild everything I thought I knew about myself, about relationships, about trust. The trial was scheduled for 6 months out. In the meantime, I threw myself into work, into therapy, into figuring out how to be myself again. And slowly, painfully, I started to heal. 6 months after Elena's arrest, I sat in a courtroom watching jury selection, feeling like I'd aged a decade. The media circus outside was intense. News vans, reporters, protesters arguing about everything from the death penalty to toxic masculinity. It seemed everyone had an opinion about my case. Elena looked different. Jail had hardened her. She'd lost weight, her hair was different, and when she looked at me, there was nothing. No recognition of the years we'd spent together, no remorse, nothing but cold calculation. Westfield sat beside her at the defense table, separated by their respective attorneys. The prosecution had offered them both plea deals, but they'd refused. Elena was betting on a jury believing her story about escaping an abusive marriage. Westfield was confident his expensive legal team could create reasonable doubt. The prosecutor, Amanda Chen, no relation to Diana, was methodical and thorough. Over 3 weeks, she built the case piece by piece. The financial records, the storage unit contents, the fake medical records, Cross's recording, Westfield's history with his second wife. I had to testify, reliving that awful night when I'd confronted Elena while wearing a wire. The defense attorneys tried to paint me as a paranoid, controlling husband who'd driven his wife to desperate measures. "Isn't it true, Mr. Hart, that you were frequently absent from your marriage?" Elena's attorney asked during cross-examination. "I worked long hours, yes? Leaving your wife alone for days at a time? Sometimes, when business required travel. And when you were home, weren't you more interested in your company than your wife?" "That's not true. I loved Elena. I thought we had a good marriage. But you hired a private investigator to follow her. That doesn't sound like trust to me. I hired an investigator after she started acting suspiciously, and I found evidence of financial fraud. It went on like that for hours. They tried to twist everything to make me the villain. But Amanda was good at her job. She had the jury focus on the facts, the forged documents, the explicit planning to benefit from my death, Cross's recording where Elena casually discussed selling my company after I was gone. The turning point came when the medical examiner who'd investigated Westfield's second wife's death testified. While he couldn't prove poisoning at the time, he explained how digitalis poisoning mimics heart attack symptoms and how the timing of her death, right after a major life insurance policy increase, had raised red flags. "In your professional opinion," Amanda asked, "does the pattern in that case resemble what you've seen in the evidence regarding Mr. Hart?" "Objection!" Westfield's attorney shot to his feet. "Speculation and prejudicial comparison." "Overruled," the judge said. "The witness may answer regarding pattern similarities." The medical examiner nodded. "Yes, the patterns are remarkably similar. Sudden life insurance increase followed by planned death designed to look natural or self-inflicted, with a beneficiary positioned to collect quickly. It's a recognizable pattern in insurance fraud murders." I watched the jury's faces. Several of them were looking at Westfield with undisguised disgust. One juror, an older woman in the front row, was shaking her head. The defense tried to recover, but the damage was done. The jury had just heard an expert say this wasn't a one-time thing. It was a pattern, a method, something Westfield had likely done before and was doing again. Elena's attorney called character witnesses, friends who testified that Elena had seemed afraid of me, that she'd mentioned feeling controlled and isolated. But Amanda dismantled them on cross-examination, showing that these conversations had all happened within the 3-month window when Elena was setting up her escape plan. It looked less like genuine fear and more like establishing an alibi. The most damaging testimony came from a forensic accountant who'd traced every dollar Elena and Westfield had moved. The jury saw charts showing the systematic draining of our accounts, the setup of offshore accounts, the creation of shell companies. It wasn't the actions of someone fleeing abuse. It was the work of professionals executing a plan. On the 15th day of trial, Diana Chen took the stand. She walked the jury through her investigation, showing surveillance photos, explaining the storage unit discovery, detailing how she'd traced Westfield's connection to Elena. "In your professional opinion, Ms. Chen," Amanda asked, "what were the defendants planning?" Objection. Calls for speculation. I'll rephrase. Based on the evidence you gathered, what scenario best fits the facts? Diana looked directly at the jury. Based on 20 years of investigative experience, the evidence points to a planned murder disguised as suicide. The fake medical records would establish Mr. Hart as mentally unstable. The Ambien found in Mrs. Hart's possession would be used to sedate him. The life insurance policy would provide the motive and the payout, and Mr. Westfield's expertise would help Mrs. Hart quickly liquidate assets and disappear before questions could be asked. The courtroom was silent. Even Elena's attorney seemed at a loss for how to challenge that assessment. When it was Elena's turn to testify in her own defense, I braced myself. She took the stand looking vulnerable, scared, nothing like the cold woman who'd been caught with fake IDs and escape plans. "Mrs. Hart, why did you rent the storage unit?" her attorney asked gently. "I was afraid," Elena said, her voice trembling. "Marcus had been acting strange, controlling. I needed a safe place to keep documents in case I needed to leave quickly. I know it looks bad, but I was just protecting myself." "And the financial accounts?" "I was setting aside money in case I needed to leave. Women in abusive relationships are told to create safety nets. That's all I was doing." "What about the life insurance policy increase?" "I didn't know about that. Marcus must have done it himself, or maybe there was a mistake. I certainly never forged his signature. She was good. If I hadn't known the truth, hadn't seen the evidence, I might have believed her. She painted herself as a terrified wife, trapped in a marriage with a controlling, paranoid husband who'd built a case against her out of nothing. But then Amanda began her cross-examination. "Mrs. Hart, you testified that you were afraid of your husband. Did you ever call the police about his alleged abuse?" "No. I was too scared." "Did you tell your family?" "No. I didn't want to worry them." "Did you tell your friends, your co-workers, anyone in your life before these past 3 months?" "Some people. It's hard to remember exactly when. Let me help you remember." Amanda pulled out phone records. "These records show that for the first 2 years of your marriage, you texted your best friend Sarah Chen an average of 30 times per day. Lots of messages about how happy you were, how much you loved your husband, how lucky you were. Then, 3 months before your arrest, the tone changed dramatically. Suddenly, there were messages about feeling controlled, feeling afraid." "Why the sudden change, Mrs. Hart?" Things got worse. Or did you start creating a narrative to justify what you were planning?" Amanda moved closer. "Mrs. Hart, you've testified that you didn't know about the life insurance increase. But we have records showing that the policy change was submitted from your laptop's IP address at a time when Mr. Hart was out of town. How do you explain that?" Elena's facade cracked slightly. "I don't know. Maybe someone hacked my computer, and the fake medical records in Mr. Hart's name found in your storage unit, were those hacked too? I don't know where those came from." "You don't know? They were in a storage unit you rented, in boxes you packed, with your handwriting on the labels. And you don't know where they came from? Maybe Marcus planted them to make me look guilty." Several jurors actually rolled their eyes. The idea that I'd planted evidence against myself was too absurd even for Elena's attorney to pursue on redirect. But the most devastating moment came when Amanda played the recording of Elena's conversation with Daniel Cross. Elena's voice filled the courtroom. "When Marcus is gone, and let's be honest, Daniel, with his stress levels and family history of heart disease, that could be sooner rather than later, I'll be looking to sell quickly." Amanda paused the recording. "Mrs. Hart, that's your voice, correct?" "Yes. But, and you're discussing selling your husband's company after his death. Not after a divorce. After his death. I was speaking hypothetically. Hypothetically planning to sell $40 million worth of stock after your husband conveniently dies? That's quite a specific hypothesis." Amanda played more of the recording, letting Elena's cold, calculating tone speak for itself. By the time Elena left the stand, she looked shaken. The Vulnerable Victim Act had crumbled under the weight of evidence. Westfield chose not to testify, probably smart given his history. His attorney argued that he was simply a financial consultant who'd been misled by Elena, that he had no knowledge of any murder plot. But the jury had seen the surveillance photos of them together, the records of their hundreds of communications, the evidence of his prior wife's suspicious death. Closing arguments took a full day. Elena's attorney painted her as a desperate woman trying to escape, who'd made poor choices but never intended murder. Westfield's attorney claimed reasonable doubt. Where was the actual murder attempt? Where was the proof beyond circumstantial evidence? But Amanda's closing was powerful. She walked the jury through the entire timeline, showing how every piece fit together into one coherent narrative. A planned murder for financial gain, orchestrated by two people who'd done this before or planned to. "Ladies and gentlemen," Amanda concluded, "the defense wants you to believe this is all coincidence, that Mrs. Hart just happened to rent a secret storage unit, just happened to create fake medical records, just happened to forge her husband's signature for a multi-million-dollar insurance policy, just happened to meet and work extensively with a man whose previous wife died under suspicious circumstances with a large insurance payout, just happened to discuss selling her husband's company after his death with a potential buyer. How many coincidences do you need before you see the truth? This wasn't a woman escaping abuse. This was a woman committing fraud and planning murder, and Mr. Westfield wasn't an innocent consultant. He was her partner in crime, using the same playbook he'd used before. Marcus Hart is alive today because he trusted his instincts, hired an investigator, and caught them before they could act. Don't let them rewrite that story. Don't let them turn the victim into the villain. Hold them accountable for what they did and for what they tried to do. The jury deliberated for 2 days. 2 days of me pacing my hotel room, unable to eat, unable to think about anything else. Diana stayed with me, along with Tom and my sister Vanessa, who'd flown in from Boston. "What if they believe her?" I asked on the second day. "What if the jury thinks I'm the bad guy here?" "They won't," Diana said firmly. "The evidence is too strong. Cross's recording alone is damning. Combined with everything else, there's no reasonable doubt." She was right. On the afternoon of the second day, we got the call. The jury had reached a verdict. The courtroom was packed when we returned. I sat behind the prosecution table, my hands clenched so tight my knuckles were white. Elena and Westfield stood as the jury filed in. I tried to read their faces, but they were impassive. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" the judge asked. "We have, Your Honor." The forewoman, the older woman who'd been shaking her head during the medical examiner's testimony, stood with a folder. "On the count of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find the defendant Elena Hart?" "Guilty." The word hit me like a physical force. Elena's knees buckled slightly, and her attorney had to steady her. "On the count of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find the defendant Gregory Westfield?" "Guilty." The verdicts continued. Guilty on fraud charges, guilty on identity theft, guilty on insurance fraud, guilty on every count. Elena was crying now, her face buried in her hands. Westfield stood stone-faced, but I saw his jaw clench, saw the realization that he'd finally been caught. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. Relieved, yes, but mostly exhausted. This had been my life for 6 months. Police statements, depositions, trial preparation, media interviews, and now it was over. The judge set sentencing for 3 weeks out and dismissed the jury with thanks. As the bailiffs led Elena and Westfield away, Elena looked back at me one last time. Not with hatred anymore, but with something that might have been regret. Too little, too late. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Amanda made a statement about justice being served and thanking the jury. Then it was my turn. I stood at the microphone, cameras flashing, and spoke from the heart. 6 months ago, I discovered that the person I trusted most in the world was planning to kill me. It's a betrayal I still can't fully comprehend. But I want to thank Detective Morrison, Diana Chen, my attorney James Corwin, and prosecutor Amanda Chen for their dedication to uncovering the truth. I also want to thank my business partner Tom, my sister Vanessa, and everyone who supported me through this nightmare. This case isn't just about me. It's about recognizing that abuse and violence can happen to anyone, regardless of gender or circumstance. It's about trusting your instincts when something feels wrong. And it's about the importance of thorough investigation and due process. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for justice. And I'm ready to move forward with my life. I didn't take questions. I just walked away. Diana and Tom flanking me, heading toward the car that would take me back to some semblance of normalcy. 3 weeks later, I returned to the courthouse for sentencing. Elena's family was there, her mother crying quietly in the back row. Part of me felt bad for them. They'd lost their daughter not to death, but to her own greed and choices. The judge was stern. Mrs. Hart, you engaged in a calculated, sophisticated conspiracy to murder your husband for financial gain. You created false documents, forged signatures, and planned to end a life, all for money. While the actual murder was not attempted due to law enforcement intervention, your intent was clear and your actions were methodical. You have shown no remorse. You have continued to blame the victim even in the face of overwhelming evidence. You represent a danger to society and to anyone who might trust you in the future. Elena stood, supported by her attorney, tears streaming down her face. But I noticed they seemed calculated, timed for maximum effect. Even now, she was playing a role. I sentence you to 18 years in state prison, with the possibility of parole after serving 85% of your sentence. 18 years. She'd be in her 50s when she got out. Our entire marriage. And then some. Westfield's sentencing was next. The judge's words were even harsher. Mr. Westfield, you have a pattern of behavior that suggests this is not your first attempt at this type of crime. While we cannot retry you for your previous wife's death, the similarities are impossible to ignore. You used your professional expertise to help plan a murder, just as you likely did before. You are a danger to society, specifically to those who trust you with their financial lives. I sentence you to 25 years in state prison with no possibility of parole. Westfield's face went pale. 25 years meant he'd be nearly 80 when released, if he lived that long. As they were led away, I felt a chapter of my life close. Justice had been served. They couldn't hurt me anymore. They couldn't hurt anyone else for a long, long time. The year after the trial was a blur of therapy, work, and slowly rebuilding my sense of self. The company thrived. Our IPO had gone better than expected, and we'd used the capital to expand into new markets. Turns out being the CEO who survived his wife's murder plot made me somewhat famous in the tech world. Speaking requests poured in, along with interview requests from everyone from Forbes to Oprah. I did some of them carefully, always focusing on the lessons. Trust your instincts, document everything, seek help when you need it. I became an unexpected advocate for victims of domestic violence and financial abuse, speaking at conferences and fundraisers. But mostly, I focused on healing. Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation to Diana or Amanda, apparently Chen was just a common name, was my therapist. Twice a week, I sat in her comfortable office and worked through the trauma of betrayal, the difficulty of trusting again, the complicated grief of losing someone who was still alive. You're mourning the person you thought Elena was, Dr. Chen explained during one session. That person never existed, but your love for her was real. It's okay to grieve that loss. It helped, talking about it. Understanding that I wasn't stupid or blind, I'd been deliberately deceived by someone skilled at deception. That wasn't my fault. Tom became more than just a business partner. He was my closest friend, checking in daily, dragging me out for dinners when I would have isolated myself, reminding me that life went on. "You need to start dating," he said about 8 months after the trial. "Not seriously, just remember what it's like to enjoy someone's company." "I'm not ready." "You'll never feel ready, but you've been hiding for months. Elena doesn't get to take the rest of your life from you." He was right, though I hated admitting it. So I accepted a friend's offer to set me up on a blind date with a woman named Rachel Morrison. No relation to Detective Morrison, though we joked about it. Rachel was a trauma therapist, ironically enough, working with veterans and first responders. She was warm, funny, and refreshingly direct. When I nervously explained my situation on our first date, so my ex-wife tried to kill me for insurance money, there was a very public trial, you've probably heard about it, she just nodded. "I know. I Googled you before agreeing to the date, and I figured anyone who survived that and is still willing to try dating is pretty brave." We took it slow. Coffee dates that turned into dinner dates that turned into long walks around Green Lake, talking about everything and nothing. She understood trauma in a way most people didn't, understood that healing wasn't linear, that some days I'd be fine and some days I'd spiral. "The fact that you're trying is what matters," she said one evening as we watched the sunset over Puget Sound. "You could have let what Elena did turn you into someone bitter and closed off. Instead, you're here, you're open, you're still choosing to trust. That takes real courage." 6 months into our relationship, Rachel met my sister Vanessa, who gave her a thorough big sister interrogation before declaring her approval. "She's good for you," Vanessa told me later. "You smile more, you seem lighter." I felt lighter. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I felt like myself again. Not the person I was before. That version of Marcus was gone, lost the night Elena told me to trust her while planning my death. But this new version was wiser, more careful, but also more appreciative of genuine connection. The company continued to grow. We hit every milestone, acquired 2 smaller startups, and expanded our team to over 100 employees. Tom and I talked about our next big move. Maybe another company, maybe angel investing, maybe just enjoying what we'd built. "You did it," Tom said one evening as we celebrated our 2nd anniversary post-IPO. "Despite everything, despite Elena, despite the trial and the media circus, you built something lasting." "We built it," I corrected. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Yeah, but I didn't have my wife trying to murder me for the shares." He grinned, then sobered. "Seriously, though, I'm proud of you, man. You could have fallen apart. Instead, you're thriving." Diana Chen checked in occasionally, making sure I was safe, that there hadn't been any threats. Elena and Westfield were both in prison, their appeals denied, but Diana remained cautiously vigilant. "People like Westfield have long memories," she warned. "And sometimes they have associates we don't know about. Just stay aware." I did. I varied my routines, kept good security at my home and office, stayed alert, but I refused to live in fear. Elena and Westfield had already taken too much from me. They wouldn't take my peace of mind, too. 1 year and 2 months after the trial, I got an unexpected letter. It was from Elena, forwarded through my attorney with a note. "You don't have to read this. I can respond on your behalf if you prefer." I almost threw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. The letter was handwritten, 3 pages on prison stationery. "Marcus, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. I deserve every day of this sentence. Sorry for what I did, for what I tried to do. I've had 18 months to think about how I became someone capable of planning murder. The truth is, I don't fully understand it myself. It started small resentment that you were succeeding while I felt stuck in my career. Envy of what you were building. Then Gregory entered the picture and he made it seem so rational, so justified. He told me I deserved more, that you owed me, that taking what I wanted was just smart planning. I see now how he manipulated me, how he groomed me into becoming his accomplice. That doesn't excuse what I did. I made choices, terrible choices. But I want you to know that the woman you married wasn't entirely fake. I did love you once. before the greed and the resentment poisoned everything. I think about the life we had, the future we talked about. I destroyed all of that. Not you, me, my choices, my actions. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that I see clearly now what I became. And I'm ashamed. I hope you're happy, Marcus. I hope you found someone who deserves you, who loves you the way you deserve to be loved. I'm sorry. Elena. I read it 3 times, looking for manipulation, for hidden agendas. But it seemed genuine. Maybe prison had actually changed her. Or maybe she'd just gotten better at lying. I wrote back, a single paragraph. Elena, I appreciate you writing. I don't know if I forgive you. Forgiveness is complicated. But I don't hate you anymore. You made terrible choices, and you're paying for them. I hope you use this time to truly change, to become someone different. As for me, I'm doing well. I've moved on. I wish you peace, for what that's worth. Marcus, I sent it through my attorney and put it out of my mind. That chapter was closed. Elena was part of my past, not my future. My future was bright. Rachel and I were talking about moving in together. The company was expanding into Europe. I'd started a foundation to help victims of domestic violence and financial abuse, using some of my IPO proceeds to make a real difference. Life was good. Not perfect. I still had moments of suspicion, of wondering if someone was lying to me. But I was learning to distinguish between healthy caution and paranoid fear. I was learning to trust again, carefully and thoughtfully. I stood in the living room of my new house, smaller than the penthouse I'd shared with Elena, but warmer, more me, watching Rachel direct the movers. She'd officially moved in last month, and we were still arranging furniture, figuring out how to blend our lives. The couch goes there, she said, pointing to a spot by the windows. We need to maximize the natural light. I smiled. Natural light. Such a simple thing to care about, yet it represented everything good about my life now. The small, genuine pleasures. The honest connection with someone who saw me clearly and chose me anyway. My phone buzzed. Detective Morrison. We'd stayed in touch over the years. Marcus wanted to give you a heads up. Westfield died last night. Heart attack in prison, natural causes, the autopsy confirmed. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no grief, just a mild sense of closure. Thanks for letting me know. How are you doing? Really well, actually. Happy. Good. You deserve it. She paused. Elena's up for parole review in 12 years. Thought you should know. I'll deal with that if it happens. But Morrison, I'm not afraid of her anymore. She doesn't have power over me. That's good to hear. Take care, Marcus. I hung up and found Rachel watching me with concern. Everything okay? Yeah. Westfield died. Natural causes. How do you feel about that? Honestly, I feel nothing. He's just gone. Part of a past that doesn't define me anymore. I pulled her close. This defines me. Us. The life we're building. The work we're doing. That's what matters. She kissed me softly. I love you. I love you too. Vanessa arrived later with her kids, bringing chaos and laughter into our quiet space. Her oldest, Jake, was obsessed with my company, asking a million questions about coding and startups. I'd promised to teach him some basics, to maybe sponsor a summer internship when he was old enough. He looks up to you, Vanessa said quietly as we watched the kids play in the backyard. You're his hero. I'm just a guy who got lucky. No. You're a guy who survived, who didn't let trauma destroy you, who built something meaningful from the ashes. That's heroic, Marcus. Don't diminish it. Maybe she was right. Maybe surviving was its own kind of heroism. Not the flashy, dramatic kind, but the quiet persistence of choosing life, choosing trust, choosing hope even when you had every reason not to. Tom stopped by that evening with his new girlfriend, and we grilled on the patio, drinking good wine and talking about everything except business. It felt normal, beautifully, wonderfully normal. Remember when we started Heart Tech in my garage? Tom said, a little drunk on wine and nostalgia. We had nothing but an idea and student loan debt. And now look at us. Successful, middle-aged, talking about retirement plans. Speak for yourself. I'm not middle-aged. Rachel laughed. You're both middle-aged and in denial. We all laughed, and I realized this was happiness. Not the absence of problems or pain, but the presence of people who mattered, moments that counted, a life that felt authentic. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Rachel and I sat on the porch watching stars emerge in the Seattle sky. I got offered a position at a trauma center in San Francisco, she said quietly. Running their whole PTSD program. It's a huge opportunity. My heart sank. That's amazing. Congratulations. I turned it down. What? Why? Because my life is here. You're here. I'm not giving this up for a job, no matter how good. She took my hand. Unless you want to move to San Francisco? I could reconsider if... No. I mean, I appreciate you offering, but Seattle's home. For both of us, I think. Good. Because I really like this house. I pulled her close, grateful beyond words for this second chance at love, at trust, at building something real. 3 years after the trial, I was invited to speak at a conference for survivors of domestic violence and abuse. Standing on that stage, looking out at hundreds of people who'd survived their own nightmares, I felt a profound sense of purpose. I was betrayed by the person I trusted most, I told them. She didn't hit me. The abuse was psychological, financial, and ultimately life-threatening. For a long time, I felt stupid for not seeing it sooner. I blamed myself for missing the signs. But I've learned something important. Abusers are skilled at hiding their true nature. They're experts at manipulation. If you were deceived, that's not your fault. The blame lies entirely with the person who chose to abuse, to deceive, to hurt. What matters now is what you do next. Do you let that betrayal make you bitter and closed off? Or do you use it to become wiser, more compassionate, more appreciative of genuine connection? I chose the latter, and I hope you will too. Because the best revenge isn't bitterness or hatred. It's happiness. It's building a life so good, so authentic, that the person who tried to destroy you becomes irrelevant. You survived. That's not nothing. That's everything. Now go build something beautiful with that survival. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, dozens of people approached me with their own stories, thanking me for speaking up, for giving voice to experiences that often went unrecognized. One woman, probably in her 60s, shook my hand with tears in her eyes. My husband tried to kill me for insurance money 40 years ago. I survived, but I never talked about it. I let shame silence me. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for making it okay to be a survivor. That night, driving home to Rachel and our warm house and our simple, honest life, I felt complete in a way I never had before. Elena had taken things from me, time, innocence, easy trust, but she'd also inadvertently given me something valuable, clarity about what mattered. Not money, not success, not image or reputation. Connection, honesty, love, courage. Those were the things worth protecting, worth fighting for, worth building a life around. 5 years after the trial, I proposed to Rachel on a hiking trail overlooking the Olympic Mountains. It was simple, unplanned, perfect. She said yes before I'd even finished the question. I was wondering when you'd ask, she said, laughing and crying simultaneously. I've been waiting for like a year. I wanted to be sure. I wanted to do it right this time. This is right. We're right. We got married in a small ceremony. Just family and close friends, no media circus, no elaborate production. Tom was my best man. Vanessa cried through the entire ceremony. Diana Chen attended, which surprised me until she explained that she liked to see her cases end well. You're one of the good ones, Diana said at the reception. Most people I help are so damaged by what happened that they never fully recover. But you did. You chose to heal. I had help. Good people who refused to let me give up. That matters. Having the right people around you matters. But so does your choice to let them help. During our honeymoon in New Zealand, far from Seattle, far from memories, just us and mountains and stars, Rachel asked me something I'd been wondering myself. Do you ever regret it? Trusting Elena in the first place? Getting married young before you really knew her? I thought about it, watching waves crash against black sand beaches. No, because that experience, as terrible as it was, taught me what real love looks like. It taught me the difference between someone who says they love you and someone who actually does. And it led me, eventually, to you. So no, I don't regret it. I survived it, learned from it, and moved on. That's all you can do. That's remarkably healthy for someone who was almost murdered by his spouse. I've had a lot of therapy. We both laughed. And in that moment, I realized something profound. Elena had no power over me anymore. Not even the power to make me bitter or afraid. I'd taken back my life completely. 7 years after the trial, I received word that Elena had been denied parole. She'd served the full sentence. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not vindication, nothing. She was simply irrelevant to my life now. My foundation had grown significantly, helping hundreds of people escape dangerous situations and rebuild their lives. I'd stepped back from day-to-day operations at Heart Tech, letting younger, hungrier people drive the company forward while I focused on philanthropy and mentorship. Rachel and I had talked about kids. Maybe adoption, maybe fostering older children who needed stability. We were exploring options, taking our time, building the kind of family we both wanted, one based on choice and love, not obligation or convention. Tom had gotten married too, to a woman who ran a nonprofit. They were talking about merging our foundation with hers, creating something even bigger. The future was full of possibilities. One evening, as Rachel and I sat on our porch watching the sunset, a nightly ritual we'd developed, she asked, "Are you happy? Really, truly happy?" I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the trial, the years of healing, the new love, the new life, the new sense of self I'd built from the ruins. "Yes," I said, and meant it completely. "I'm happy." Not because bad things didn't happen, they did. But because I chose to build something good from them. I chose to trust again, to love again, to believe in people again. And that choice made all the difference. Rachel smiled and took my hand. "I'm glad you trusted me." So am I. We sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the Puget Sound, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. It was a perfect moment, simple, genuine, true. Elena had told me to trust her, and that trust had nearly killed me. But I'd learned that the answer wasn't to never trust again. The answer was to trust wisely, to trust people who'd earned it, to trust while remaining aware and protecting myself. I'd trusted Diana Chen to investigate. I'd trusted James Corwin to protect my legal interests. I'd trusted Detective Morrison to pursue justice. I'd trusted Tom to have my back. I'd trusted my therapist to help me heal. And eventually, I'd trusted Rachel with my heart. Each of those trust decisions had been validated. Each had made my life better, richer, fuller. That was the real lesson. Elena's betrayal didn't mean trust was wrong. It meant I'd trusted the wrong person. But the solution wasn't isolation and suspicion. It was wisdom, learning to recognize trustworthy people, to see red flags, to protect myself while remaining open. "What are you thinking about?" Rachel asked. "Trust," I said, "how I almost let one person's betrayal ruin it for me. But I'm glad I didn't." Me too. As darkness settled over Seattle and stars began to appear, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, complete peace. The nightmare was over. I'd survived. I'd healed. I'd built a new life better than the one I'd lost. Elena had told me to trust her, and I'd trusted my private investigator instead. That decision had saved my life. But more importantly, it had taught me that trust wasn't naive, it was brave. And choosing to trust again, carefully and wisely after betrayal, that was the bravest thing of all. I squeezed Rachel's hand, grateful for this moment, this life, this second chance. "I love you," I said. "I love you too." And in that simple exchange, I found everything I'd been searching for. Honesty, connection, safety, love. The things Elena had promised but never delivered. The things Rachel gave freely every single day. I'd told Elena to trust me too that night years ago, but trust without truth is just a pretty lie. What Rachel and I had was real, built on transparency, honesty, and genuine care for each other's well-being. That was worth everything, worth the pain of getting here, worth the long journey of healing, worth the risk of trying again. The best revenge, I'd learned, wasn't destroying Elena or celebrating her imprisonment. The best revenge was this: building a life so full of authentic joy that her betrayal became just a chapter in my story, not the whole book. A chapter I'd survived. A chapter that had made me stronger, wiser, more appreciative of genuine love. A chapter that was finally, completely closed.